Hey, so far we have already built create and read operations using both approaches, list-based marks and dictionary-based marks. Now we move into update. And this is where the real difference between these two data structures starts to show. On the surface, update sounds simple. Change a name, modify marks, that's it. But in practice, the complexity depends entirely on how your data is structured. So in this video, I'll be implementing update functionality for both list-based marks and dictionary-based marks. And by the end, you'll clearly see which design holds up better when requirements evolve. So let's get into it. Alright, so I'll just minimize this, okay, and come to edit student. Now, when the object is used to call edit student, it's not passing anything, so it will not receive anything either. So inside this method, we have check whether the students list is empty or not. Now if it is, that is equal to 0, then we show no students to edit, and we just return from the function. That means that this entire block will not be executed. So when it returns, now wherever return is written inside this method, it means straight off cut back to where the control was before this function was called. Okay, so this return is the only word that was written inside this block right here. So that means this entire portion segment is not executed. Okay, so when it gets out of this if condition, goes back to the control. Now say if the student list does contain something, does contain a dictionary of student details, then what? So we initialize marked list, okay, and currently it's holding nothing and it's just an empty list, and we just write, we ask the user to enter the roll number to edit student details. Now why do we do this? So that we'll be able to know whether a particular student will have a particular roll number where that will be unique. Now say supposing if there are two students having the name Rohan, two students having the name Zara, then there will be confusion. But if there is a roll number, or you can say an email ID, then that would have been more appropriate to distinguish between the two students. Although the name is the same, the emails might be different. So say if zara@gmail.com is one email and zara123@gmail.com, that's a different email. So this is what distinguishes a unique ID to that student. Alright, so in this case I've just used a roll number, an integer, which will be entered to be able to check whether that student is present in that list or not. Okay, now we run a loop through all students through the students list, and we get that object dictionary student. Now for that particular student, we check if that inside that dictionary we access the roll number, and if that roll number, that means this accessing the key, we get the value for that dictionary. Okay, this is the syntax for when we access a dictionary mentioning that key inside quotes, we get the value, and if that value is matching with the value that we entered, okay, and if that is matching, then we show a menu based option where the user can enter either the edit the name, the marks, or both. Alright, so when the user enters the choice in ch, we match the choice with different options that we have. Now the first option is that if the user enters his name, then we directly assign the name that we have entered inside the value for corresponding to that key, which is name, inside the dictionary student. Now since we have access to that student, we are mentioning it in this way directly. Okay, another way would have been assigning this name that the user would input into a reference variable, and that reference variable we would have entered into this name indirectly. Alright, so coming to case 2, where the user would enter marks. Now you would notice here that we are not entering the roll number. We are not editing the roll number. And I have done that on purpose. It's no issue if we want to edit the roll number, it can be edited. But the reason why we did that for is for consistency, so that when I will be executing this program on the terminal, I will not want to be confused that this roll number was existing for that particular student at this time and then see later on it changed. So I don't want that inconsistency. And usually in larger scalable systems, the unique ID never changes, right? That ID always remains the same that we assign it to. Okay, so after the user goes into case 2 and enters a number of subjects to edit, uh, so the user will be asked like, what are the number of subjects? Do you want to enter the number of subjects that you want to edit? So, all right. So when the user enters the number of subjects, it just loops through the number of subjects, enters the marks, and that marks is being stored as an integer value inside mark, and finally being appended to the marks list. But that's not it. Now, if you don't have this statement right here in line 56, that means that marks list has not been used yet. So marks list needs to be updated to the dictionary corresponding to that key, which is marks. Okay, and this is how we access that key in this syntax. Okay, we use the dictionary, and in third brackets within the quotes we write the name of the key so that the value can be updated to that dictionary. Okay, so when the user wants to go for case 3, that is appending both uh, editing name, marks, both. So case 3 is basically a combination of case 1 and case 2. All right, so we just enter the name, and it goes asks the user to enter the number of subjects, loops through the number of subjects, enters the marks one at a time, appends it to the marks list, and that marks list is added to the dictionary or updated to the dictionary using that key, which is marks. Okay, and within quotes. So now there were only three, right? Three options. The fourth option would have been to exit. What if the user wants to exit the loop and doesn't want to edit anything? So we have that in dictionary, but unfortunately I did not do it in this one. But it would mean the same thing. And say if after you edit and provide the same name or different names, and what happens then? It just breaks through and skips this line, okay, because we've already found one, and goes in back to the control. All right, that and it in this case it doesn't even show that successfully printed, but in dictionary, in this method which I'm going to show you now, it does show. All right, so it just breaks through and comes back to the main. All right, so otherwise if it shows that if the roll number doesn't exist, that if it doesn't match to the roll number that we have entered, then, and if it is not in the dictionary, that means then it'll go to the else part and it'll print this. Now because we have this break, it does not print this. The control does not come to this print statement. All right, so this is how we do for a list, update a list, a dictionary which contains a list. Now what if I told you if we had marks as a dictionary, right? Now in this case we have the same. If there are no students, then you'll just check and say that there are no students to edit, otherwise it'll just return. Okay, return means getting out of that function, going back to the control where this method was called. Okay, and if say if there is something in the students list, then the user will then be asked, first this check is made, and if the program finds that there is something in the students list, then it asks the user to enter the roll number that it wants to check. Then the user enters the roll number as an integer value, and we have that in roll object as an integer. Now it loops through that student list, and after it loops through, we have access to every dictionary as a student. Okay, so up to this part it's all the same. Okay, and all right, so we are giving a choice for cancel editing right here, as I said. Okay, And in case 1 we have a name, and we edit the name, and after editing the name we assign it to the dictionary corresponding to its key, which is name, and we say that it is successfully updated. Similarly, for case 2, this is where it matters the most. Now, line 55, student marks dot clear. This means, why are we doing this? Now imagine if I already had one student present, okay, and that contains a marks, right? When I'm adding right here, this marks is currently having some data in it, okay, and say you want to edit that data. So what you want to do is first clear it out, okay, and if we don't clear it and we just keep entering data like this, the number of subjects, what will happen is it'll just keep appending it to that list, or in this case a dictionary, okay. And then you might be wondering, why didn't we do the same here? Okay, is it being appended to the list? Let's check it out. So if I have Python, what was it, list, right? I have one student with a roll number, 2 subjects, okay. Add another student, say 2, number of subjects 2, physics, no, enter marks. Alright, so I give a string value, so it's pretty obvious that it would tell me that, so I just have to redo it all over again. The number of subjects 2, say this was a list, right? Okay, enter marks 32, 43, add a student again, Zara, 2, earlier was 1, this is 2, okay. Number of subjects, say 1, say 80, okay. Now I display them, it has 80. Now if I go for edit and check, enter the since it is not being, it's not telling me that there are no students in the list, because there is something in the list. So I just edit and enter the roll number. So I want to edit, say, marks, okay, for roll number 2, okay, and I want to edit marks, okay. Enter the number of subjects, earlier it was 1, okay. Now say if I want to give 2, what happens? Enter marks, say 32, 65, okay, and I want to display. It doesn't happen right here, okay, and the reason is because I am writing this marks list and declaring it as an empty dictionary, empty list each time. So each time this edit student is iterated, or when the user goes for edit student, we show that the list is emptied every single time it comes to this method. Now imagine if marks list was outside this method, then this wouldn't have worked. Alright, that means that when we come to this method, we would have to write, first of all, you'd have to write self to be able to access it, because that would belong to the class. And second is because if we wanted to use marks list, then it would keep appending it, and we'll be removing the marks for the previous list every single time, okay. So that is not how it is, that is not how it should be, okay. So I'll just come back to case 2 in dictionary, where it is entering the number of the user is entering the number of subjects, and for loop to loop through the number of subjects, enter the subject and the marks. Now we have the subject and the marks, so what do we do with it? We take the marks and we insert it into that dictionary student, okay, corresponding to marks as a key inside the student, okay, and subject that we have entered, okay, as the key inside marks dictionary. So marks is a dictionary inside the student dictionary, and subject is the key inside the dictionary marks. All right, so that is what the structure looks like. And after it has been updated, the student dictionary, now we print that is successfully updated. Similarly, case 3 is basically a combination of case 1 and case 2, and we just enter the new name, and right, in line 63 we do the same, right? So that this does not get appended to the next the previous list or dictionary, right? The contents of the dictionary. So we enter the name, we enter the size of the subjects, that is the number of subjects that we enter, and it loops through that, and we get the subject and the mark. The user enters the subject and the mark, and the mark is entered through similarly inside the dictionary student corresponding to its marks dictionary with respect to its particular key, which is subject. Okay, and on doing that, it just says that name and marks has been successfully updated. Now on case 4, when you want to cancel editing, we just show that it is cancelled editing and break through. Now when you break, okay, we are breaking from here. That means that this statement will not be executed. All right, this one. Otherwise, say if I had not given these break right here, then it would have shown me that both name and marks are successfully updated, and after that it would have shown that roll number doesn't exist, which wouldn't be right. So this is basically a for else statement. Okay, now for looping through this entire set of instructions, and if we are successful in that, we just break and the control goes back to the next. Okay, it comes out of that for loop. But if we haven't given that, if we did not give that break, then this would have also been printed. All right, so uh, since we are giving break, the control goes back outside the for loop. Okay, and this does not get printed. And if the role is not present in that list, then it comes to the else part. So it comes out of this break right here. The if comes out of this break, it comes out of this break, and it comes to the else part, because this condition is not fulfilled. So when it does come out of it, it shows what is printed inside the else part, which is roll number doesn't exist. All right, so if I just run this for I think I had done it for list, now I'll do it for dictionary. Okay, say I'll add 2 students in one go. Number of subjects is 2. Say I have physics, I have 80, subject name chemistry, I get 60, and another student, say Zara, roll number 2, number of subjects, say 3. Say I have maths 80, chemistry 86, and I have biology with say 79. Okay, I display them. Okay, it shows me 80, 86 and 79 with respect to maths, chemistry and biology. Okay, now I go for edit. Enter the number to edit student details. So I want to say edit number 2. Okay, alright, I give 12, so it says roll number doesn't exist. Okay, so if it does succeed for any of these options, it should not print this, right? So say if I go for edit and I want to change 2, that is this one, I'm just highlighting it so that I can refer to it. I give control to say I want to change both. Okay, let's first cancel. I don't want to. Alright, so editing cancelled. Okay, and go for it again and change number 2, and I give edit both marks and name, and see if I want to change the name to what, Rohan, subjects as, enter the number of subjects, so I just give 1 subject. Okay, earlier it was 3, I just give 1 subject in this case, and say I give geography and 30. Alright, both name and marks have been successfully updated, and it does not print this. Why? Because it broke through. I mean, it did break from that condition. Okay, that if that thing is found, if the role is found, then it doesn't need to go to the else part. Okay, alright, so Now you've seen both implementations of update. Here's the blunt reality. So list based updates are structurally weak. You're just replacing positions in this particular scenario. Okay, and dictionary based updates are far more controlled. You're working with meaningful keys like subject. Okay, this is exactly how backend systems are designed. Data is never just stored, it's structured for safe modification. In the next video, we will be completing the CRUD cycle with delete operations, again comparing list with dictionary approaches. And deletion brings its own set of edge cases, especially when modifying collections during iteration. So let's continue to the final part. Alright, so before we move to the final part, I just want to do a quick run through the uh, display if we are getting the right credentials after doing the editing, right? So right here we have entered the credentials for the first student, and here the credentials for the second student, and I've displayed them right here. Okay, and then I went for the edit. So on the edit I am recreating or modifying the second roll number, that is for Zara, and from her name Zara I changed it to Rohan. Okay, and I went for the third option to change both name and marks. Okay, and I'm entering the marks, number of subjects as 2, and different number of subjects, different marks, and it shows that it's successfully updated. Now let's check whether this gets modified or not. Okay, I'll just print 2, and we have history and chemistry as 97 and 90. History and chemistry 97 and 90 corresponding to its particular keys. Okay, so now we can finally move to the final part.